On a quiet autumn night, as a thin mist covered the surface of Lake Zurich, a mysterious phenomenon shook the land long known for its peace, cleanliness, and order. Hundreds of residents living around the lake became unwitting witnesses to a strange, unprecedented sight, a giant, unidentified flying object hovering in the sky. According to Amanda Lee, a middle-aged woman living by the lake, she froze on the spot when she happened to pull back her curtain at dawn. In the cloudless sky, a glowing blue disk was silently rotating. Light emanated from the outer rim of the object, where dozens of white lights flickered like a row of bulbs, casting an eerie, ghostly reflection over the surroundings. There was no sound, no hurried movement. All that existed was silence and a slow counterclockwise spin, as if the thing was observing. Amanda hurried to grab her phone to record the scene. She was far from alone. Hundreds of people in town saw it. Videos quickly began to spread on social media, drawing the attention of UFO hunters worldwide. One of the first to share was Jack Morrison, a veteran UFO researcher living in Lucerne. He called it the most credible close contact phenomenon in over 10 years. Lake Zurich, the site of the phenomenon, is a lake about 40 kilometers long and nearly 150 meters deep, nestled at the foot of the Alps. The city of Zurich, with over 350,000 residents, has long prided itself as Switzerland's cultural and financial center, a place associated with order, precision, and pragmatism, not with things like UFOs. Residents of small towns around the lake also confirmed seeing the strange lights. In Dissenhoven village, more than 60 kilometers from the lake, and in the town of Charhausen, about 45 kilometers away, people reported seeing the glowing object at around the same time. A witness named Brian Cole from Charhausen recounted, "I was standing on my balcony when I saw a swirling blue light. At first I thought it was stage lighting, but the light stayed still. It didn't flicker like event lights do." As the clips were widely shared, some skeptics argued that it could have been a nightclub light show. However, all witnesses agreed that there were no laser beams coming from the ground, no thumping music. One even confirmed that we checked all events happening that night within a 30-kilometer radius. There was absolutely no show. And even if there had been ground-based lights, couldn't possibly project that high into the sky and spin so steadily like that. The strange object hovered for about 5 minutes before suddenly vanishing, as if it had never existed. Yet its image, the spinning disc, the cold glow, the feeling of being watched remains deeply etched in the minds of those who witnessed it. So what really happened that night? What was that giant disc? Where did it come from? Was it a spacecraft controlled by intelligence beyond Earth? Or was it some top-secret human technology experiment the world has never been told about? In the next part, we will trace the origins of similar incidents that have occurred across the globe, from the deserts of Nevada in the United States to the remote forests of Siberia. Could Lake Zurich be just a small piece of a larger puzzle where secrets quietly move beyond the light of humankind? Immediately after the video of the unidentified flying object spread widely, a flood of questions was sent to the relevant authorities in Switzerland. Among those who spoke up was Victor Barnett, spokesperson for Skyguider, the agency responsible for monitoring the national airspace. He responded with caution. He admitted that it was still impossible to determine exactly what the object was. What puzzled him most was that the light from the object did not reflect on the surface of Lake Zurich, a strange characteristic that no other object flying over the area had ever displayed. During the investigation, the team from the Did You Know program stumbled upon a striking fact. Switzerland, a country famous for its neutrality and transparent administration, actually has a fairly long history tied to UFO encounters. Yet no official body has ever been established to conduct in-depth research into this phenomenon. From 1971 to 1988, there were at least 15 reports from the Swiss military documenting sightings of unidentified flying objects. Notably, in 1988, during a national television program, a journalist posed a direct question about these reports to a representative of the Ministry of Defense. But instead of a straightforward answer, they evaded the question and merely said that this is a matter within the scope of national security secrets. Since then, no one knows whether internal investigations were ever carried out or if everything just ended up as files gathering dust. The local people, however, did not wait around. After that shocking night, many theories began to emerge, with everyone trying to explain the phenomenon in their own way. Here are the three most prominent theories. First theory: it could have been light from a lighting device for a party or entertainment event. However, to create a giant glowing image in the sky, the lighting technology would need to be extremely powerful, typically directional lasers from the ground. But all witnesses confirmed that at the time there were no beams of light coming from the ground. This made the event lighting theory unconvincing. Second theory: it was a type of advanced drone. In an era where drones have become globally widespread, the appearance of a strange flying device cannot be ruled out. But the object seen by the Swiss people was so large that it was visible from as far as 20 kilometers away, something no civilian drone model today could achieve. Furthermore, the object emitted no sound, cast no shadow, and produced no light reflection on the lake's surface, typical signs if it were a drone. This theory therefore also reached a dead end. The third theory, and also the most controversial one: it could have been an alien spacecraft. When all scientific efforts to explain something fail, humans instinctively begin to turn their thoughts toward things beyond their understanding. Technologies that may far surpass the civilization of humankind. Vehicles that can appear and vanish without leaving a trace. Perhaps it was a survey A warning, or simply a silent visit. While public debate had yet to die down, a familiar name reappeared. Jason Marcus, a well-known expert in the UFO research community. He was the one who shared the video of the strange object on the platform X, formerly Twitter. Jason Marcus's name was no stranger to enthusiasts of this topic, as just a few weeks earlier, he had shaken the scientific community by appearing before the Mexican Congress to unveil two strange mummies that he claimed were extraterrestrial beings. At that hearing, Jason presented two small humanoid bodies, only about half a meter tall. Although they had head, eyes, nose, and mouth structures resembling humans, they had only 3 fingers and withered bodies like ancient mummies. According to him, these specimens were found in Peru and were at least 1,000 years old. He asserted firmly, they do not belong to any species that has ever lived on Earth. However, the scientific community was not easily convinced. A wave of criticism arose. Many anthropologists, archaeologists, and scientific skeptics argued that this was merely an elaborate hoax. Some independent reports even proposed that the mummies might have been assembled from human and animal bones to create their strange forms. Yet despite the controversy, the connection between the Peruvian mummies and the unidentified flying object over the Zurich sky only made the story all the more shocking. Could they be successive pieces of evidence suggesting that someone or something is silently observing the human world? We are living in an era where the boundary between science and the mysterious is increasingly blurred. The questions that seem the most outrageous may in fact hold the key to truths being hidden. Could what happened in the Swiss sky be just the beginning? The debate is far from over. After first shocking the world by unveiling 2 strange mummies before the Mexican Congress, Jason Marquez's real name, Jaime Maussan, was invited to appear at a second hearing. Held in November 2023, this hearing had a single purpose: to compel him to provide concrete proof that what he called alien bodies were not fakes. This time, Marquez appeared with a series of new X-ray images, along with medical examination results conducted by an independent team of experts. According to him, the results showed that the biological structures of these beings bore no signs of artificial intervention, no grafting, bone welding, or restructuring by any known human technology. More notably, he presented a letter signed by 11 scientists from the San Luis Gonzaga National University in Peru, the place where these beings were said to have been discovered. The research team affirmed that they had spent 4 years analyzing 5 similar specimens. Their conclusion: no evidence of fabrication, and that these bodies were genuine. But what that truth actually is, no one dared to say. Marquez admitted, no scientist claims these are extraterrestrials. But I want to believe it, and I want to go further. The debate over the identity and origin of the mummies continues to divide the research community. No one can prove that they are creatures from another planet, but neither can anyone assert with certainty that they belong to any animal species that has ever existed on Earth. And when scientific explanations fail to satisfy curiosity, people turn once more to stories that verge on the surreal. No one would have expected that amid the arid land of Santa Argentina, there would exist a strange construction, a UFO landing pad built from white stone and belief. The founder of this structure was Warner J. Lee, a Swiss-born man with a calm appearance, but a story that defies belief. According to him, on the night of November 24, 2008, while in a desolate desert area near the Concha River, he witnessed something no one could imagine. Everything around me fell into absolute silence. The power went out. Then I saw two flying objects hovering over the river. They stood as tall as 200 meters, emitting a strong white light rounded as if forged from polished metal. But the strange thing was that the light wasn't blinding, it was present without obscuring my vision. And then, like a lightning bolt piercing his consciousness, he said he heard not with his ears, but through some form of wordless transmission, a command. The extraterrestrials, according to him, had asked him to build a landing pad in preparation for their future returns. A few months later, he began constructing the site he named OVIP short for OVNI Port, a dock for unidentified flying objects. The landing pad was shaped like a giant star with 36 points radiating outward, spanning a diameter of 48 meters. Each point was made from white stone quarried from a nearby mountain. The central section was compact, designed to resemble a navigation hub, a place he believed UFOs could recognize and approach from the sky. The construction was only completed in 2012 with the help of his trusted assistant, a man who also claimed to have witnessed the UFO phenomenon on that fateful night in 2008. Since then, the OVIP landing pad has become a famous destination within the global UFO enthusiast community. Many people make pilgrimages there, hoping to witness something or to sense a signal of some sort from the far reaches of the universe. But to this day, no official record has ever confirmed that a UFO has actually landed at OVIP. And what about Warner J. Lee? He continued living in Santa, continuing to believe despite all criticism and slander. In 2011, he was arrested once, but this had nothing to do with the OVIP structure. It was over an accusation that he had stolen a wallet from a couple from Uruguay, a contradictory twist in the personal record of a man who always claimed to be carrying out a mission from another planet. After being released, Warner J. Lee disappeared without a trace. The locals of Santa, those who had seen him build the OVIP landing pad with his own hands, no longer saw him again. No one knew where he had gone. Some guessed that he had returned to Switzerland, the land of his birth. But there were also half-joking, half-believing remarks that perhaps he had been taken away by extraterrestrials completing his mission on Earth. Although no one can verify the truth of Lee's story, that no longer seems to matter. The presence of OVIP in the desert, along with the hundreds of people who have come to gaze upon it and believe in it, stands as proof that belief in UFOs and extraterrestrial life is no longer mere fantasy. The story of the mysterious mummies in Mexico, the UFO landing pad in Argentina, and the strange lights in the skies over Switzerland, these are all just small pieces in the vast sea of legends, evidence, and theories that are attracting ever more attention. Many believe that given the boundless immensity of the universe, it is hard to imagine that humanity, with all its limitations and flaws, is the only form of life that exists. In fact, that belief has existed for a very long time, since the days of the Babylonian Empire in ancient Egypt, when images of extraterrestrial beings were often attributed to gods or demons. Even without the scientific language we have today, ancient civilizations were already asking the question, are we alone in the universe? The first Westerners to lay the foundation for the scientific hypothesis of extraterrestrial life were Thales and his students in the 6th century BCE. They reasoned that if the universe contained many celestial bodies, there was no reason to think that only Earth harbored life. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, although it did not directly mention extraterrestrial beings, many believers thought that God might have created many other Earths and that we are not the sole center of his divine creation. That belief continued to spread well into the 20th century. After 3 centuries of scientific revolutions, humanity entered the age of space exploration and began to study more deeply the structure and potential habitability of the solar system. However, after sending probes to the moon Venus, Mars, and later to major moons like Europa and Titan prime candidates for life, almost all hope was dashed. There were no signs of civilizations like the ones we had imagined. And so scientists began turning their telescopes farther out beyond the solar system, hoping to capture radio signals from an alien civilization. They believed that if somewhere in the universe another civilization existed, they too might use radio wave technology as we do, and if so, we might be able to hear them. A signal from 4,000 light-years away. In 2020, astronomers recorded a radio signal so strange it caused a sensation. It was designated GIM XJORI 12759, a cold technical name, but one that concealed a terrifying possibility. The signal repeated in an 18-minute cycle, something never before observed in the universe. 3 times an hour, the source emitted a massive burst of energy, as if something or someone was sending out a message. Dr. Natasha Huyer, an astrophysicist on the research team, described the moment of discovery. I broke out in a cold sweat. We had never seen anything like it. A global research effort needs to be launched to monitor it. The signal was transmitted at a single frequency, as if it had been sent deliberately. She believed this could be the first breakthrough in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, a signal so powerful it was insane. I fear it's aliens. This remark from one of the researchers when the mysterious radio signal was detected sent shivers down many spines. This signal originated from a point about 4,000 light-years from Earth, and it completely defied all known astronomical patterns. Scientists quickly dismissed the possibility that this was a typical natural phenomenon. The signal was too faint to be emitted by a neutron star, too slow to be a pulsar, yet too bright to be an ordinary star. With its regular cycle repeating every 20 minutes, the signal left the entire astronomy community puzzled. However, after multiple checks and cross-referencing of data, scientists reached a conclusion. It was highly likely that the signal came from a magnetar, a type of neutron star or white dwarf with an extremely strong magnetic field. As these objects spin in space, they can emit a periodic beam of radiation, a more plausible explanation than attributing it to aliens. But then just a few years later, another event once again challenged the rationality of science. An object from afar, A2017 U1, also known as Oumuamua. On October 19, 2017, while observing the sky, astronomers detected a strange object entering the solar system from interstellar space. Initially, it was named C2017 U1, but was later renamed Oumuamua, meaning messenger from afar in Hawaiian. At the time of discovery, Oumuamua was only about 30 million kilometers from Earth, roughly 0.2 astronomical units. But what made it an unprecedented phenomenon was its shape and behavior, completely unlike any celestial body ever known. It resembled neither a comet nor an asteroid. With a slender cigar-like shape, Oumuamua reflected light 10 times more strongly than the rocks in the solar system. This led some scientists to believe that its surface might be metallic and polished, a strange feature that nature would be unlikely to create by chance. What was even more mysterious was how it accelerated as it passed near the sun, faster than could be explained by gravitational force alone. And when scientists tried to explain this through outgassing the release of volatile substances from its surface heated by the sun, they found no trace of gas or dust at all. This was precisely what led Dr. Avi Loeb, a renowned astrophysicist at Harvard University, to propose a bold hypothesis: Oumuamua might be a discarded light sail built by an extraterrestrial civilization, possibly now extinct. A light sail is a technology that humanity itself is studying, using radiation pressure from sunlight for propulsion without fuel. If Oumuamua really were such a device, that would mean we have stumbled upon the first trace of a cosmic civilization. Even so, not everyone agreed. Many other scientists argued that Oumuamua's acceleration could be explained by a gentle push from solar radiation pressure alone, without invoking alien technology. In terms of physical characteristics, Oumuamua was estimated to be between 100 and 1,000 meters in length, 35 to 167 meters thick, and had a deep red color similar to objects from beyond our solar system. After 80 continuous days of observation, scientists were compelled to reach a conclusion: Oumuamua was not a spacecraft, but rather the first interstellar object ever recorded by humanity. Later, a second interstellar object was discovered named Tuiwi Borisov, further reinforcing the hypothesis that the universe could be filled with wanderers between the stars. Yet for many, these traditional scientific explanations were still not entirely convincing. If it wasn't a spacecraft, Then what was it? An autonomous probe, a drifting observation station, or the first evidence that we have been visited, silently leaving no trace? In 2015, a heated scientific debate erupted when astronomers discovered an almost unbelievable anomaly. The star KIC 8462852, also known as Tabby's star, exhibited light fluctuations that fell completely outside all existing scientific frameworks. This star, located in the constellation Cygnus, about 147 light-years from Earth, has an apparent magnitude of 11.7, too dim to see with the naked eye but visible through small telescopes. When researchers began tracking its light variations, they were stunned to find its brightness at times dropped by as much as 22%, a figure never before recorded for any other star. A planet passing in front of a star could only reduce its brightness by a few percent. But 22%, that couldn't possibly be caused by a planet. Something larger, more artificial, or entirely unknown seemed to be blocking the star's light. The most striking hypothesis immediately captured public and scientific attention. An alien megastructure might be surrounding the star. People called it a Dyson sphere, a speculative concept proposed by the famous theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson. According to him, an advanced civilization in the universe would at some point seek to harness all of the energy of its host star. To do so, they might build a gigantic structure enveloping the star to collect its energy, a project on a scale far beyond human imagination. As soon as this hypothesis emerged, thousands of people worldwide were swept up in a wave of curiosity. More than 1,700 individuals donated over $100,000 through a Kickstarter campaign to fund the construction of a specialized telescope to observe Tabby's star, in the hope that we might be witnessing the first trace of extraterrestrial intelligence. However, as is customary in science, belief must give way to evidence. From 2015 to 2017, a vast amount of data was continuously collected. When scientists observed the star across different wavelengths from X-rays and ultraviolet to infrared, they discovered that the star's light was dimming at all wavelengths, but each type of light dimmed at a different rate. This led them to a different, more reasonable, though less mysterious explanation: cosmic dust. Massive clouds of dust drifting around the star could be the cause, obscuring its light from many directions and at various times. Dr. Tabitha Boyajian, the first to discover this phenomenon and after whom the star was named, along with her colleagues at Louisiana State University and in collaboration with the Las Cumbres Observatory, also confirmed there was no evidence of an alien megastructure surrounding the star. Yet even though a scientific explanation had been offered, the Dyson sphere hypothesis never truly disappeared. For Freeman Dyson himself once said, "If it exists, we will recognize it by the unusual light of a star, not by its voice nor by radio waves." And as if by strange destiny, just as the story of Tabby's star faded, another signal rang out, this time from the depths of space. The WOW signal, a greeting from the distant void. On August 15, 1977, at Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Observatory, a historic event took place. While reviewing recorded data, astronomer Jerry Eman suddenly stopped. On the printout showing the radio wave analysis results, a burst of data appeared 6EQUJ5 with an unusually strong intensity. Stunned, he circled the line of the signal and wrote a single word beside it: "Wow," and from then on it became known as the WOW signal. The signal lasted for 72 seconds, coming from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. No satellite, no known natural object had ever been recorded producing such a signal. It bore no resemblance to any signal from Earth, and it has never repeated. To this day, nearly half a century later, we still cannot determine its true origin. Was it a random coincidence, a deliberate act, or simply someone from a distant place knocked on our door, and Earth just happened to overhear the knock? However, there is one thing that leaves everyone unsettled: the signal appeared only once and never again. Since that fateful moment in 1977, nothing similar has ever been recorded. And because of that, the question who sent the signal has never had a definitive answer. That mystery sparked decades of debate between those who believe it was the first greeting from an extraterrestrial civilization and more pragmatic skeptics who suspect it was merely a natural phenomenon not yet understood. Even Dr. Jerry Ehman, the first to detect the signal, did not fully believe. He once described the signal as being 30 times stronger than the cosmic microwave background radiation, a level so unusual it couldn't be ignored. But he always remained cautious because science demands more than wonder. Then 40 years later in 2017, a new hypothesis emerged from an unexpected source, Professor Antonio Paris, an astronomer at St. Petersburg College, Florida, who had spent a year pursuing an answer. Based on ancient astronomical records, Paris discovered that two comets unknown at the time in 1977 had passed near Earth on the very day the WOW signal was detected. These comets were officially confirmed in 2006, but it wasn't until 2017 when they appeared again that Paris had the chance to observe them more closely. And to his surprise, the signal he recorded matched the WOW signal in a remarkable way. According to Professor Paris, as comets approach the Sun, they release massive clouds of hydrogen gas which could produce a radio signal identical to the WOW signal. Paris candidly admitted, "I wanted to be wrong. Part of me always hoped it was aliens." But he also added, "Sometimes the truth comes from simpler things like a trail of icy dust drifting across the sky." Even so, not everyone agrees. For many, the comet explanation is not convincing enough. A solitary, powerful signal lasting exactly 72 seconds, never repeating to them, that's no coincidence. That is a message. And if that's true, who sent it? While humanity continues to listen to the cosmos, hoping for a repeating signal, there is another threat clearer, closer and far more destructive, silently approaching Earth asteroids. According to NASA, any object with a diameter of 140 meters or more that passes through space within 7.4 million kilometers of Earth is classified as a potentially hazardous object. A rock of that size, if it collided with our planet, could wipe out an entire city or devastate hundreds of square kilometers of land. And if it were larger, about 1 kilometer in diameter, the consequences could surpass all imagination, the end of human civilization. We have seen this happen before. 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid struck Earth and wiped out all dinosaurs along with countless other species. Not war, not disease, but a rock from the sky. That is why NASA tirelessly monitors thousands of space objects, charts their deadly trajectories, and seeks every possible way to warn or prevent if a doomsday scenario were to occur again. And among the most wanted targets topping the list is Bennu. Familiar to the astronomical community, Bennu, or Bennu US 1999 RQ-36, is an asteroid about 490 meters in diameter, weighing up to 67 million tons. To put it into perspective, it's larger than the Empire State Building in New York and 1,500 times heavier than the Titanic. However, what makes Bennu one of the top threats isn't its size, but its unstable orbit. With an orbital period around the Sun of about 435 days, Bennu's path can intersect Earth's orbit at a distance of just 480,000 kilometers, closer than the Moon at its nearest point. A slight deviation, a chance gravitational tug, could turn it into a destroyer. According to scientists, Bennu's current orbit shows no direct threat to Earth for about the next century. But that does not mean absolute safety. On September 25, 2135, Bennu will make an extremely close approach, just about 204,000, which is only half the distance from Earth to the Moon. Although the chance of impact at that time is very low, everything could change. That very encounter could slightly alter Bennu's orbit, and that opens up a much more dangerous possibility. On September 24th, 2182, Bennu will have a 1 in 2,700 chance of colliding with Earth based on orbital model analyses. And if we extend the time frame to the next 300 years, the probability of Bennu hitting our planet is 1 in 1,500, the highest among all space objects currently being tracked by NASA. According to calculations, if Bennu were to strike Earth, it would release energy equivalent to 4 billion tons of TNT, about 80,000 times the Hiroshima atomic bomb. Such an impact could obliterate entire cities and villages across a vast region, and if it happened in a densely populated area, millions of people could perish. However, Bennu is not large enough to cause global destruction like the asteroid that once wiped out the dinosaurs. Although NASA believes the risk of impact remains low, they have never underestimated Bennu. Since its discovery in 1999, Bennu has become a top subject of study in the field of planetary defense. Bennu belongs to the class of carbon-rich asteroids, giving its surface a very dark appearance, reflecting only about 4% of sunlight. But beneath that ink-black coating lies an ancient treasure of the cosmos, rock and chemical samples, dating back to when the solar system was still forming around 4.6 billion years ago. Scientists believe Bennu originated in the asteroid belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Some 2 billion to 700 million years ago, a massive parent asteroid over 100 kilometers wide broke apart, creating Bennu. The remaining debris clumped together over a few weeks, forming a new asteroid, hollow, unstable, and full of mysteries. Bennu is highly porous. About 20–40% of its internal volume is empty space. Thanks to the Yarkovsky effect, a gentle push created when the asteroid absorbs sunlight and re-emits it as heat, combined with gravitational influences from other celestial bodies, Bennu is slowly drifting toward Earth. That is why NASA selected Bennu for a historic mission to collect samples from this ancient asteroid and bring them back to Earth. In September 2016, NASA launched the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft with the goal of reaching Bennu, collecting samples, and bringing them back to Earth. On September 24, 2023, after a journey of over 1.9 billion kilometers, the capsule containing samples from Bennu safely landed in the Utah desert, USA. What surprised scientists was that Bennu's surface was unlike that of other asteroids. Instead of being composed of solid rock, Bennu was soft and porous, almost like a liquid. This made the sampling process much more difficult than expected. At present, scientists are meticulously studying each grain of dust from Bennu, hoping that they might contain clues about the origin of life, or at the very least help decode the process of planetary formation. Next on the list of NASA's most concerning asteroids is 1950 DE, an object ranked as the second highest risk on NASA's hazard chart. With a diameter of about 1.3 kilometers and a mass of 71 million tons, 1950 DA is primarily composed of iron and nickel, a cosmic metal boulder drifting around the Sun. In 2002, it once held the highest Palermo scale rating ever recorded, 0.17 points for a potential impact that could occur in the year 2800 ND, that is 857 years from now. Strangely enough, even scientists have almost no complete data about it. 1950 DA was first discovered on February 23, 1950, and was only observed for 17 days before it vanished completely from telescopes, as if it had merely passed by, then slipped into the darkness of space. 50 years after it was first discovered and mysteriously disappeared on the last day of the millennium, December 31, 2000, astronomers at Lowell Observatory unexpectedly detected a new object temporarily named 2000 YK6. However, that name lasted for only 2 hours. After comparing data, scientists confirmed this was indeed 1950 DA, the object that had disappeared in 1950. Since then, most images and data about this asteroid have been provided by the Arecibo Observatory. According to current calculations, 1950 DA has an orbital period of about 96 years around the Sun. In early 2021, it made a pass by Earth, but at a rather distant range, 0.5 astronomical units, or about 75 million kilometers too far for accurate imaging or measurement. However, better observation opportunities will come. In March 2032, it will approach Earth more closely at a distance of just 11.2 million kilometers, and by 2105, this distance will shrink further to only 5.4 million kilometers. These close approaches will be valuable opportunities for scientists to more closely monitor the behavior and structure of this lurker in the dark 1950 DA. With a diameter of about 1.4 kilometers and a mass of up to 71 million tons, if this asteroid were to collide with Earth, it could release energy equivalent to 75 billion tons of TNT, large enough to trigger a global catastrophe and even threaten the survival of humanity. Ranked third on the list of the most dangerous asteroids is an entirely new name, 2023 TL4. As the name suggests, it was only discovered in 2023, but it was immediately placed on the list of particularly concerning asteroids. Why has this newcomer caused such a stir? According to initial observations 2023, TL4 has a diameter of about 330 meters and a mass of 43 million tons. Although current data remains limited, scientists have calculated that on October 10, 2019, It once had a collision probability with Earth of 1 in 11 or 0.055%, a probability that cannot be taken lightly. If an impact were to occur with such mass and size, it would release energy equivalent to 7.5 billion tons of TNT, enough to obliterate a vast area and cause a regional-scale disaster. Though very new 2023 TL4 has already surged straight into the top 5 most dangerous asteroids and is now being closely tracked by NASA and scientific agencies around the world to better assess its potential threat level. In fourth place is an equally strange name, 2007 FT3, also known as the Lost Asteroid. It was discovered on March 20th, 2007, and appeared in telescopes for just 1.2 days. At that time, it was about 4 million kilometers from Earth, and then it vanished completely. To this day, no scientist has ever found it again. From those brief observations, it is estimated that 2007 FT3 has a diameter of about 340 meters and a mass of 49 million tons. Its exact orbit remains a mystery, but initial assessments indicate that its cumulative collision probability with Earth ranks among the highest. NASA once calculated that between October 2024 and March 2030, 2007, FT3 could potentially collide with Earth with odds ranging from 1 in 11 million to 1 in 104 million low, but not zero. If such an impact occurred, it could release the energy of 2.6 billion tons of TNT, enough to obliterate a city or shake an entire region. What makes 2007 FT3 especially dangerous is not just its size or destructive potential, but its extremely elusive nature. It could be wandering somewhere near Earth, and humanity has no certainty about where it is. Finally, in fifth place is 1979 XB, another lost asteroid, but of no small scale. With a diameter of 660 meters and a mass of 354 million tons, it was first discovered in 1979 and remained visible in telescopes for just 3.9 days before vanishing from human sight for more than 4 decades. After that brief detection in 1979, XB quietly slipped from human view. At the time, it was about 13.5 million kilometers from Earth, before suddenly disappearing into the darkness of space, never seen again. To this day, astronomers are still waiting for a stroke of luck, a chance sighting through some telescope. All we have are a few scattered data fragments gathered in 1979. From that, scientists have predicted that its orbital period ranges between 2.4 and 4.2 years. The probability of 1979 XB colliding with Earth on December 14, 2013 was calculated at 1 in 1.8 million, a very small chance, and fortunately it did not happen. However, 90 years from now, the risk could return. And if that happens, the impact could release energy equivalent to 30 billion tons of TNT, enough to cause a global-scale catastrophe. So far, the 5 asteroids that NASA has placed under special monitoring include Bennu, 1950, DA, 2023, TL4, 2007, FT3, and 1979 XB. Among these, Bennu is currently considered the greatest threat with the highest collision probability of up to 1 in 2,700, though. Fortunately, if that ever happens, it wouldn't be before the year 2182. That said, the danger does not only come from what we have already seen. Thousands of city-size asteroids may still be lurking in the sun's glare, escaping every telescope aimed from Earth. And a recent event has proven that we remain extremely vulnerable. On February 15, 2013, a meteor unexpectedly entered the atmosphere over Russia and exploded in the sky above the city of Chelyabinsk, an event that stunned and humbled the world. No warning, no signals detected beforehand. The meteor was only about 17 meters long and weighed between 700 to 710,000 tons, much smaller than the disaster candidates on NASA's watch list. But its destructive power was by no means small. According to eyewitnesses at 9 a.m., a blazing object streaked across the sky, leaving a fiery trail before exploding violently. At first, many thought it was an airplane explosion, but in reality, a small space rock had evaded every observatory on Earth and was only detected when it had already entered the atmosphere at a speed of up to 54,000 km/h, 44 times the speed of sound. The explosion occurred at an altitude of 15 to 25 kilometers right above Chelyabinsk. Although it did not directly impact the ground, The energy released was equivalent to 500,000 tons of TNT, 20 to 30 times stronger than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The result: 200 people injured, more than 3,700 buildings, damaged, shattered windows in 700 schools, over 200 hospitals affected, and tens of millions of dollars in damages. Fortunately, there were no fatalities, but that event was a wake-up call for all humanity. The European Space Agency ESA has stated that meteors the size of the rock that caused the Chelyabinsk explosion could strike Earth once every 5,100 years. Larger asteroids are even rarer, but the risk still exists. Currently, astronomers are monitoring and mapping the orbits of more than 33,000 near-Earth asteroids, and fortunately, no asteroid is predicted to collide with our planet in the next 100 years. However, there is a simple yet crucial issue: you can't calculate the risk from something you've never seen. That is the greatest fear. Not what we know, but what is lurking behind the sun's glare. Asteroids capable of causing mass extinction must be closely monitored, and if necessary, their orbits altered using future technology. In case of failure, early warning to evacuate people from danger zones would be the last resort. The video ends here. If you know of any other space rocks or terrifying meteor explosions that have ever occurred, share them with Did You Know in the comments below. Because every small piece of information today could save the entire planet tomorrow.